Good evening, bonsoir. I am Christian Vachon, curator of paintings, prints, and drawings. On behalf of the McCord Museum, I wish you all a convivial welcome. We are going to have a merry and enjoyable time together. Tonight's event comes at a time when we are making advances in research on cartooning and graphic satire. On this matter, I invite now Dominic Hardy, professor at the Department of Art History of the University of Québec and Montreal, to tell you how this roundtable came about and how we reach out to all the present cartoonists. Dominic?
Merci, Christian. Good evening. Thank you very much, Christian Vachon and the McCord Museum for hosting us. Welcome to all of you. Bonne soirée. I just would like to give you a brief history of how this event came to be, because I think it's very important to understand just what we've been able to achieve here tonight. So the opportunity came after many years of very happy collaboration between my students who are here tonight, myself, our colleagues at the Université du Québec à Montréal, and the whole Association of Canadian Cartoonists, many of whom are here tonight, to bring about greater knowledge about what it is you do. And of course, there's also much to be said, and I'll come back to that later, and I know Christian will, about the history of this practice in Canada and around the world. But into this wonderful environment came our colleague Daniel Chartier, who's here tonight as well, and who is the chaire de recherche de l'Imaginaire du Nord, de l'hiver et de l'Arctique, so the research chair for the imaginary of the North, winter, and the Arctic at the Université du Québec à Montréal, who, in collaboration with the Council of Nordic Ministers, the Nordics, reached out to me and said, would you like to bring a northern cartoonist from somewhere around the globe to Montreal? I said, oh yes, please. In fact, I'd been working for different moments over the past year with a cartoon of Christian Blum's, which we'll see and which many of you will know, the famous Trump baby cartoon, which was circulated by colleagues of the Association of Canadian Cartoonists in the weeks after the election of 2016. And in getting to know Christian in the spring and in the summer, I got to know Siri Dokken, who is also with us tonight from Oslo, and that led to the concept of this evening to bring Christian and Siri together to Montreal to meet Montreal and Toronto cartoonists, the group that we've been so involved with, and following on from other meetings that have been taking place here in Toronto, in Havana, in Sacramento, the moving feast that is the Association of Canadian Cartoonists. And this comes at a time when we have just finished earlier this year the work on, and we've seen the publication of a book called Sketches from an Unquiet Country, which is about the history of cartooning in Canada with a focus on Montreal and Toronto. The book covers the period 1840-1940. It was edited by Annie Gérin and Laura Senecal-Carney and myself, and several of the authors are around, including Christian Vachon right here, and José Deforges in the audience. And so this honoring of the past led us to also want to honor the present practitioners as we reach out to this international group. So Siri Dokken, who is a cartoonist and illustrated for the newspaper Dagsavisen and professor at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Oslo. Christian Blum, cartoonist and illustrator for the newspaper VG in Oslo. From Toronto, Sue Dewar, longtime cartoonist with Sun Newspapers and Postmedia, and now with Artizans. Wes Tyrell, longtime with Yahoo Canada, president, or as he's known, El Jefe, of the Association of Canadian Cartoonists. And from Montreal, Michel Garneau from the newspaper Le Devoir, where he draws under the nom de plume Garnotte. Terry Mosher, best known under his nom de plume Aislinn, cartoonist at the Montreal Gazette, just celebrated 50 years of his career with an exhibition here at the McCord. You'll hear about that from Christian in a moment. And Serge Chapleau, also known as Chapleau, former cartoonist at Le Devoir, but longtime cartoonist at La Presse, and is also the mastermind behind the Radio-Canada Sunday night television show Ici la Flaque. Let's mention also that Terry Mosher and Serge Chapleau are both members of the Order of Canada and recent recipients of honorary doctorates conferred by Concordia University, and 2 solid dudes, or a version thereof, and you'll hear about that in a minute too. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for being with us tonight. Just a reminder that we're presenting this in English because it is the lingua franca of the assembled company. However, nous sommes très heureux de faire des traductions spontanées en français, so we can do informal translations as needed. So in coming to our round table, we've asked our guests to prepare sets of images for us, and we've gathered them together, as you can see, in a basket, and presented here on a grid, in the PowerPoint grid. And we've asked them to provide these images according to 4 themes. 1, Donald Trump. The 2nd, elections. The 3rd, climate change. And the 4th, images that reflect their own situation in their own cities and the work that they do that is very much more specific to their own conditions. Dangerous Times. This was, of course, a wink and a nod to a famous Bruce Cockburn song, Lovers in a Dangerous Time, Drawings in a Dangerous Time. Christian has done a wonderful job of suggesting just why they might be dangerous for so many people. And distinguished cartoonists, we wonder how you deal with this figure, this Donald Trump, who sometimes seems to have anticipated whatever it is you could do to throw at him, to satirize him. How do you respond to Donald Trump? So I throw this open, and I thought I would ask Christian Blum and Siri Dokken first, as our guests from the furthest away, to talk to us about how you have seen Donald Trump and how it's impacted your work. And what we can do is show your images in a grid, and if you want specific ones to be brought forward, we can do that, or we can just leave them as a grid on the screen. So, Siri, would you like to start, or Christian?
Hello, everyone. Well, this is sort of a the last one was sort of how I depict the U.S. now as a very threatened. The values are threatened, and the situation is critical because of the terminal disease that it has contributed. So it was sort of a more depressing state of things.
So I guess in the beginning it was like when he showed up on the scene, like it was easy to see him as a joke, or because it's like it seemed like such a typical American thing that this self-made millionaire, like clownish guy, should sort of step onto the stage and take the attention, and you sort of took it for granted that okay, yeah, he'll have his spotlight and then he'll be voted out by reasonable people. So it was kind of, yeah, this image. I came up with the idea before the election, but and I thought it was, yeah, this is a good. I like the idea, but I thought I won't be needing it because of course Hillary Clinton will win, and so I just put it in the drawer and thought, well, yeah, that's a great idea that I fortunately won't be able to use, but yeah, as it turned out, things went the other way, and so I just pitched this idea to my newspaper and said, hey, how about this one? And they put it on.
Christian, can I ask you a question? Were you surprised by the response to that cartoon? Because people...
Oh yeah, totally.
I don't know,
totally.
a lot of us in Terry were talking like, who's this guy, Christian Blum?
Yeah, no,
I wondering
I
who you were.
Yeah, I was kind of delighted and terrified to see how things can spread, like using social media and whatever. And I fortunately all the response I got was really positive, but I can only imagine what it's like to be thrown out on that stage in a negative light. It's kind of, because it's like you're all over the world. Yeah, it was weird. And also kind of incredible, because I don't think we'd be here now, or I'd be here right now without that one. So it's been a door opener too. So yeah, it's. Yeah, that's another one. I'm not sure if he should be a clown instead of a ring. What do you call it? Is it ringmaster or like the circus? Yeah. I think the text I always work from a text, so I think the text was talking more about like how both parties are being damaged by this. So the actual point of the drawing is like these horribly mutilated animals. That's and Trump is just standing there taking all the spotlight, but the point is more of the suffering of the animals, I guess. Yeah, and this it's kind of a joke that makes itself. I feel like the you don't really see it that well here, but the main point, I guess, is almost like the self-combusted, like the bubbling flesh of his leg, like is burning from the inside almost. And I guess like one of the sparks has hit the journalist, so yeah, he can credibly be accused of lying, but yeah, the source of the fire is like, yeah. So.
Was that one published?
No. No, it unfortunately not. It was kind of yeah, it's pretty ugly. So, but I guess you could say it's like caricature as self-therapy or something, or just like because you just feel like you have to react with something and. Yeah, no, and it's me. I stood on all fours and no. Yeah, never been published. Maybe for the best.
Donald Trump's office by Chapleau.
Well, I changed
Yeah.
things. It's fun. Magazines with guns and
Elvis Presley was.
Presley, we have rifle bullets and fried chicken, fried chicken.
A mirror ball.
And a slot machine.
So just before the election.
It's always funny. It's not like you were saying it. We thought that guy was just funny, but he's funnier than us. I mean, every time we do a drawing, the next morning he's doing something much more unbelievable. But it's still fun to draw him. I don't have the drawing here, but I drew him with a dick in the place of the nose, and I had no reason to do it, but it was fun to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Serge, you prepared one in case Hillary Clinton wins.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm living, on dit en français, en déni. Je suis en déni.
I was in denial.
Denial completely, because she was supposed to win, and then you go to sleep, and the next morning you have this clown that is, oh my God.
I'm looking for it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's Hillary with a cigar.
No, it's about a cigar, and the cigar shows it's a girl, but it's the cigar that comes from the box of Bill.
I may find it later.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll go back to
Sue.
Sue.
I just want, what is with the fake news? I mean, fake news, sports, and weather. There's just so much untruth in the news and from Trump, and it's now being picked up by other politicians. We have Doug Ford in Ontario, who is now starting to emulate this kind of thing and starting to say fake news and that kind of stuff too. So you just think, oh God. When Trump was elected, I had a cartoon party at my house. I had all the cartoonists that were, you know, in the local area
For
come for
election
dinner.
night?
Yeah, and election night. And that was fine. We had a big TV set up and we were watching the election, and all of a sudden Trump obviously was winning and everybody ran away because they'd all done Hillary. So I had no party. It was all over by about 7:30. So this one's kind of obvious. This is, you know, when they were discussing the pact, the NAFTA deal, the whatever we're gonna get in the end, we're not sure.
I love the curler.
And he does something to his hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when the book went out.
The book, the fear
Fear
book,
book.
the fear book came out, and yeah.
I like the fact that you put the little beaver next to the Statue of Liberty, like if you were friends, despite Trump.
Well, I mean, we do love the States, but we don't like him.
Yeah.
That's just. Oh, this is. Yeah. It's true. The sad thing is that it's true.
Sure is.
And the next one's good because Christmas is coming and perfect.
Oh, nice.
Well, that's the last one I did before I retired.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna print that.
of course.
So Michel?
Michel?
Another thing there.
I'm sorry for my English, it's terrible. But not as terrible as Mr. Trump. He is sitting on the red button, you know, nuclear button, and he asked, where is the button? You're sitting on it. Was just visiting. You know. Yeah, I think Edward Munch is from Scandinavian, Norwegian, yeah. So maybe you understand the problem. The Statue of Liberty is horrifying. This is the first meeting between our Prime Minister and President Trump. I didn't put the shit. But this cartoon has been published.
All the shit is implied.
Yes. But this one, yes, you know, he called some countries shitholes, countries, and this cartoon was to illustrate that.
Like the tie and the belt.
The wall of Mr. Trump, and when the little kids were in prison, literally, and that's his wall with kids.
And my friend Wes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, there's not much to be said about this one. This is actually a segment of a picture where he was in a ring battling Justin, but I just like the fact that he could rhyme Trudeau and Boudreaux. It doesn't make sense. This I guess this is Trump speak in hieroglyphics, and where he's painted his body and with all the words. You can pretty much use images just for. And he has a little birdie. So he's a strange looking fellow. And he's so orange. Oh yes, yeah. Just like Sue was saying, she had this great party with Terry came into town. We had all kinds of visitors for election night, and everyone was guaranteed he's gonna lose, he's gonna be embarrassed, and she's gonna be triumphant, and she's gonna be the first woman president, which I thought was the most significant thing, that everybody was so busy saying she's not a great candidate and this and that and the other thing, and forgetting how important it would have been to have a woman president. And this was a cartoon that didn't end up getting published because of it, because I thought, oh, that's great. And then I felt like a schmuck like everyone else, going to go home and do something up. But I thought that was going to be a positive moment. And this other one, Christian, that next one, was just another segment of the same. I just, for whatever reason, I thought it was kind of funny. Like her as like a science fiction space commander, and then getting caught by his evil moon Trump with his nasty Pence hell dogs, these Christian assassin dogs, but I never ended up drawing it up for whatever reason.
And oh yes, Terry's.
Okay, first I want to say the best cartoon I've seen on Donald Trump. None of it's true. It was a cartoon that was in the New Yorker after he had been in power for a while, and it's a cartoonist in his room, about to start a drawing, and his wife leans in the door saying, "That cartoon idea you had on Trump, forget it, he just did it." So, although Trump is easy, he's also very, very difficult in the sense that he's so much of a cartoon himself. We're all kind of scratching our heads how to come up with the classic Donald Trump cartoon, got to be on the obvious stuff, the orange hair, this, that, and the other. Now, this cartoon was drawn long before he was elected, because like everybody else, I dismissed him as kind of a comic character, but nevertheless ominous in a way, because Donald Duck was always angry, and you could hardly understand what he said. That sort of thing. And yet, just constantly angry, so I thought it's a perfect fit for Donald Trump. And quite honestly, I still stand by this cartoon today, several years later. It also became a problem. Vance Rodwald in Calgary did a wonderful cartoon of a cartoonist at his drawing board with a rubber stamp of a face of Trump, producing cartoon after cartoon after cartoon. And I think there have been more cartoons drawn of Donald Trump than any other American president in history. And doing it over and over again, there's that repetitive nature of drawing the guy exactly the same way. You know, small hands, red tie, all that stuff. So I've been trying to sort of come up from time to time with different approaches to how to sum this guy up. So this is another one, and again, this was drawn right after he was elected, and him as the Incredible Hulk. And it also allows you to play with Photoshop here, where you can take images and just play with them, play with them, play with them. It's an awful lot of fun. So sometimes you draw, and sometimes you just create different sort of images. The next one is a good example. Now, when I took this into my editors, and remember, this is in early 2017, my editor said, "This is really tough. Nobody's drawing him as a pig." I said, "Not yet." And sure enough, within a couple of months, New York Magazine had him as a pig, very much like this on their cover and that sort of thing. And now Ann Telness makes a good living in Washington, drawing him constantly as a pig-like figure. So sometimes you're a little bit ahead of the wave with an image, and again, so much fun to play with that, to merge the hair with the folds of the pig's neck and then play with the eye. We were talking before about how much fun you can have if you have the time with Photoshop to play with these different things, and you're tweaking. The last one is fairly recent. When Mrs. Trump said, "I'm the most bullied person in the world," I thought, well, who's doing the bullying, right? And here he is saying bullshit. But then this is back to good old-fashioned drawing, and there is a certain appeal with playing with the colors and this, that, and the other, and it all kind of comes together. So there you go. That's my Trump.
We have more by Christian.
Yeah, this is unpublished too. It was more like just I think just made it the same night as the inauguration speech with American carnage and the rain starting falling and everything, and I felt like, yeah, he's just setting himself on fire while the rain is dripping. It was more like just a personal reaction piece, more than yeah. This one was, yeah, like the piece it was drawn to before was like a comparison between him and Nixon, and I thought of him in the victory pose, but he's like hanging on for it with his bare fingers and calling it a victory. And, I think we skipped some of your CV.
This was also very prescient from Siri
Yeah,
on the relationship with journalists.
it's actually made like a year ago or something, but it had new actuality or with the recent events with the Costa. I mean, this has just been getting worse and worse, and after the last session where they actually, yeah, I'm speechless really. With the way things are evolving, I'm speechless. This was made as a woman. It's really hard to understand his female voters, and you can actually see his hand going up under the skirt of the girl. And Hillary Clinton, this is I think it was made just after the election, and Hillary Clinton's trying to offer her voters something and say, "Nice try, lady," but this is the guy they actually prefer, which was hard to understand. It's 2 years celebrating. Not much to be said about that. And also, self-combusting is obviously something. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, so this hold on power of Trump, we've just seen it again, although in mitigated circumstances perhaps, but it's also been reinscribed in the most recent electoral, the midterm elections, and of course it's got something to do perhaps also with that very particular electoral system that they have in the United States, but then what country doesn't have a quite particular electoral system? Elections have been sweeping governments to power in the past year, sometimes with very ominous consequences. I think of Brazil, for example, the midterms, also, well, in Quebec, we elected for the first time the Coalition Avenir Québec, and in Ontario, well, you all brought Doug Ford to power, it seems. How did you do that? Wes and Sue, how did Ontarians bring Doug Ford to power?
I blame Sue. Sue quickly, he came to power, and she just retired. And she just, fled the city, which made it safe for Doug Ford. It's awful.
Anyway, we asked you to send to bring together drawings you'd made about elections, and not just Ford, of course, but generally. So that's what we open onto this section now. And again, what's it been like working with all of these electoral changes and the shifts in the political landscape for you?
Well, this was long before he was elected, and we just thought it'd be a joke if he ever got in. We had no idea. And then I retired in the December, right after he wasn't even president yet, and so I missed the whole last year and a half of his ridiculous.
But she's back.
And now I'm back to 1 day a week.
Out of retirement.
So there's so much I missed, and I'm looking at all these great drawings. I even put a little stuff on the underwear. You can barely see it, but
I can see it.
that's the midterms, because, they're so divided down in the States that. Like that's it.
In the cities. So Siri, you've been attacking but speaking about the very idea of democracy
Yes,
And-
it's hard. This is actually the last drawing I did before coming here, so
Wow.
it's very recent. It was, but it's hard to understand. In Europe, you have this. I guess it's spreading from the US, or maybe the tendency is simultaneous. But this idea that democracy is sort of outdated and has to be forced and has to be challenged. It's really what we are standing on. So the idea of attacking it and demolishing the very pillars of
Mhm.
our society it's baffling,
Mhm.
to say the least. This is actually, I work for a daily newspaper. It's called Dagsavisen, which is sort of used to be the Labour Party publication, but then we went independent. So now it's an independent leftish publisher. But I also do work for a magazine, and this is actually not published yet. They have these really heavy academic articles, and much about the tendencies and the tendency that actually what used to be political opponents merge, and in the middle you get this, well, populism, which is really has no core values other than just trashing the establishment or what they perceive as the political establishment.
Years,
Hmm?
the years.
Yeah, I was looking at the ears.
Yeah, well, actually, there's
It's like
some.
arrows or something.
I don't know what. I had no control on what was happening in the middle there. It's brown and it's gooey. Okay, so the colors are a bit shown. Yeah. This is on an article on political debate. I work with a fantastic political journalist called Helg, which is, I think, is Norway's best. And she was writing an article on how these are actually political opponents in Norway. This is Erna Solberg, our prime minister, and this is her opponent from the Labour Party. And they tend to merge really. You don't really see the difference after a while, because they're trying to adapt.
Mm.
And we have these two things going on at the same time, because they try to sort of adapt in a sense that they get more and more alike. And then you have the some like symbol issues or symbol topics that tend to go the opposite direction. It's changing. The political landscape is changing. So this is also for the magazine. It is right-wing populism, which is really you just take some issue and you just throw it, and people are blindly following. And you see that a lot in the political debate in Norway now. You have these issues which really isn't important or issues, but are sort of, they fire up people, pushing button triggers, and then you can make people run anywhere really. So these are not just generic people. It's not. They're not no one.
So the Canadians who wants to vote for United States election, American election. So the younger man, the kid asked why Canadian cannot vote at the election of the President of the United States, and his dad answers because we are not American, but they have all, they eat McDo, they went to Old Orchard Beach, and Disney World, and Walmart, all this kind of stuff. Oh, this one is hard. Somebody can translate that. Do you know someone who know how to read or to count? And the other guy said, yes, the wife of Mohammed, but she was stoned because she went to school And but maybe she will get out of the hospital in a week. That's the reason why the election, the results will be long to have. But I put the donkey in the window.
That's nice.
Yes. Just because it was nice.
I love to read drawing.
Yes. It's a Democrat. The Scotland referendum, a little, yes, Marilyn Monroe with a mustache. Here in Canada, we have a great discussion about how if people who have a niqab can go to vote with a niqab. And Quebecers said, many Quebecers said, I will go with a bag of potatoes on the head if she will go to vote with his niqab. So for his integration, this lady put a bag of potato on his niqab to go to vote.
As if she's a Quebecer.
In Quebec.
To get integrated.
That's it.
Yes.
Yes.
Wes?
Oh yeah. This is a couple of years ago, but
Motel Politico.
yeah, Motel Politico was talking about the kind of the political climate that we were.
And no shame.
Right at the end of the harbor, and Harper's just in the back twiddling his hockey stick back there under the umbrella because he was, I think, busy working on a hockey book. But we did have our confounding Ford brothers.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, one of the clown at the bottom there is our new premier in Ontario, and his brother famously was our mayor of Toronto, who was the crack smoking, belly slapping nut job, who's no longer with us. And as
Like
well,
the 3 senators in the pool.
yes, we had the 3 dirty senators in the pool, and then. And of course we had Pauline sunning herself. I don't know where that's gone. There we go. So there was Pauline in her sectioned off part of the pool, and the unsuspecting couple have come to the wrong motel saying, "Good God, what's that smell?" And he says, "I'll get the car. Let's get the hell out of here." That's Stephen, that's Harper in the back, and Mr. Duffy and Pamela Wallen, and what was the gentleman's name with the ponytail that fought just in?
That was
Yeah.
Senator.
Patrick Prescott.
Yeah, Basil, he's in that dirty, stinky cesspool of Canadian politics.
The woman at the left actually looks like the Norwegian Prime Minister.
A similar flavor to it.
Elections theory.
Okay, all right, we're backwards here, but it doesn't matter.
People vote against things. They don't vote for them quite often. You know, I don't like when it's more and more these days. They don't like Hillary Clinton, so they vote against Hillary Clinton, not for Trump so much. So I thought this summed it up. There were 4 political parties in Canada, and in that particular election, there had been all kinds of scandals, and nobody was particularly popular. The leaders weren't right. So please mark your choice with a clear and definite X. So they're all X'd out, all 4 parties. I picked 4 different cartoons to illustrate 4 different aspects of drawing cartoons on elections for a daily newspaper. What do you have next? Okay, now people were talking about the business of drawing a cartoon, not expecting Trump to win. This was my backup cartoon, but it wasn't finished. What I had was a couple on a couch watching a big TV, but there was nothing else in it. Just in case, this was my backup cartoon. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, when it was pretty obvious, and I was in a hotel room in Toronto, I drew in the 2 balloons because there's going to be a sadness. I knew that about Obama being gone, but also Michelle Obama, who I was convinced at that moment should run next to be President of the United States. And then what I did, a screen grab very quickly with my camera got that into my computer and dropped that scan in from the actual night. So it looks like you're right on top of things. Well, I guess I am right on top of things. And then added the lettering stupefying results. So this was the case of a backup cartoon becoming, in effect, the cartoon that appeared in the newspaper the following morning. And that's often the case. Chapleau will tell you, everybody will tell you, that when you're doing a daily cartoon, you're under the gun, particularly at election time. It's expected you would come up with something very apropos. You can't just sort of fake it with a question mark. You can't do that. You can't get away with it. What have you got next, Christian? All right, this is probably a favorite election cartoon. Canada's a little bit like Holiday Inn, no surprises. You know, we're an interesting country, but we're a little boring in terms of and we kind of like that, don't we? But there have been nothing but either conservatives or liberals elected as the head of Canada since 1867, and the over 150. It's either a liberal or conservative, and there's always been a touch of scandal at the end of every regime. So I have the big fat liberal pig in the election of, what was it, 84 when Brian Mulroney came in. Big fat scandal-ridden pig. And the smaller, leaner, but still fat conservative pig saying, "Where's the trough?" And the point is, this happens every time there's a regime change. They promise no more patronage, no more this, that, or the other, but there is, and it happens, and it's predictable. So again, this cartoon could run every time there's a regime change of the small pig killing off the big pig, and there you go. Have you got another one there? Yeah, okay, again, the election of 2004, the sponsorship scandal. It was in June, by the way, the election, because the guy's wearing sandals. Not typical here in Canada. But in any case, we voted. Not sure how to vote, but we voted, and then she's asking, "Okay, now wash your hands." And is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Yes. This is Christian.
Yeah, these characters are the same ones as Siri drew. Is it on? Yeah. The Prime Minister on the left, and the leader of the Labour Party on the right. And they're there's like she said, they're so similar in many ways, and they're sort of doing all this, painting each other black to sort of exaggerate the differences, and yeah, I don't know, it's just turning into just like a childish, yeah, I don't know, it's serious, it's better. This one was my alternative for, like I do a weekly cartoon, so I have more time, but this one ran the weekend before the election, and that's the sitting when I came up with the others, the Trump and the Globe, and I thought, well, I can't use that idea, so I have to do something with Hillary, which of course will win. So it's kind of Hillary doing, sort of mending the torn flag, but yeah, I mean, she's not perfect either, so she does a pretty lousy job, but at least it's not holes anymore, I guess, but yeah, so that one ran, and of course missed the mark totally, like everybody else. So yeah, the same characters again. This was just a story about the TV debates, and how you exaggerate, and yeah, again, it's sort of a staged. The whole thing is kind of you stage the differences and sort of exaggerate the conflict in a way, and it's at the same time they're kind of pretty similar in a way. So is this part of the election thing? No, I don't think so.
I made a mistake in talking in there. So
Such a good deal.
Yeah, it's more of a. I don't think this was part of the election.
No, it's my
maybe.
mistake.
That one?
No.
No, okay.
No, I don't remember which category.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
think
found
maybe it was on-
Chapleau unpublished cartoons in case Hillary wins.
Yeah, we didn't know, so she's having the cigar, no? C'est une fille. It's a girl. We know where that cigar went. But she's happy, but it didn't happen. So the next morning, something else. Next drawing is when. Just wait until I post that to Dad. My God, because that guy came to our convention,
Yes.
doing a show on the stage. You remember that? And he he had different hats, and he did
Roller
roller skate, and he did like a history. And at the end, he put the jacket of his father on his back, and he said, "It fits."
It fits, yeah.
It's a little bit too big,
It was
but
an
it
election
fits.
result, and nobody picked up on the rest of the press for it for a year and a half. But he announced at our cartoonist convention.
That he was
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And he was right. That's the other one is, it doesn't show very well. The bad reproduction. It's like the scandal we had in Canada with the comment on appelle ça, the comment sponsorship and everything. And all those guys made the face of Jean Chrétien. But the picture is very bad, so.
That's a lot of work.
Okay. Well, Sanders and comes with Hillary, they're still trying to laugh, but it's not working very. That's it. Sue.
I think
I think we did.
Yep.
the-
We done with
Yeah.
the election.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so
Elections are done.
elections are done, and elections are, bring into power or eject from power these different conceptions of responsibility for the environment, and they keep climate change at the forefront of public life, or at least we hope so in one way or another. With this event being sponsored by a research chair on the Imaginaire of the North, the winter, and of the Arctic, and with our nations as both nations being major players in the circumpolar regions, how do the issues of climate change and the environment impact on your work? I think we're starting with Terry here.
Yep.
Yeah, this is sort of one of those, you try to do some things differently, but the earth wrapped in a garbage bag. Sue just whispered really nicely drawn. It isn't. What it is you search and you find different images.
You take the earth, put it in a plastic bag.
Well, I guess, but then you have to you pose a plastic bag that's filled with water or something. Then you take, it's a lot of work, actually a lot more work than actual drawing, because then you take a photo of it, and then fade it, fit it over, squeeze the earth, and so you've got layers you're working on, and what you come up with is finally the earth contained in a plastic bag. It's very strong graphically, but again, people say, "Oh, isn't that cheating?" Not really. It's an awful lot of work and a lot of fun actually to do, and it's kind of a change. I like to surprise people, so it's a change from the regular diet of drawing after drawing after. I mean, for years I did drawings of guys with little bodies and big heads, and I got bored with it. So I figured the readers must be bored with it, and that's when I began to sort of strike out. And when the computer came along and color, it just allowed me to move in all kinds of different directions. And here's another example of that. You had all of the terrible things happening down south, earthquakes. Katia, all of that. And what do we have here in Montreal? Civic. It's a PQ policy convention. We kind of, pardon the expression, but in Quebec here we tend to disappear up our own assholes a little bit with our own concerns that nobody else in the world cares about. But we make a good living at it, right, Serge?
Working for us.
Yeah, it works for us. And I thought of other aspects. I mean, this is kind of a pollution, really, what's happening with not only kids, but all of us. We're disappearing into these devices. In a way, they are becoming our best friends.
I mean, I catch myself with my wife at the dining room table, checking out my device, and I think, oh, geez, and I look at her, I feel guilty, but she's looking at hers. So we're all a little guilty of this, that we're disappearing into this artificial stuff that it bothers me. It bothers me a lot, and I figure it probably bothers everybody that we're less and less capable of a sort of a genuine conversation. So occasionally I draw things like this. By the way, I want to make the point here too, that when I started out in cartooning 50 whatever years ago, we were called political cartoonists. We're not just that anymore. And it was expected you drew cartoons of politicians on the daily sort of whatever it happened to be. But the idea of doing something on anything other than that was just not acceptable. But then I began putting sports cartoons on the editorial page because Montreal's a sports crazy city, and then they were very popular. In some cases, a lot more popular than the actual political cartoons. But look, politicians are forgettable people who come and go. We only remember a few of them. But sports were devoted to it. So I really moved out in every direction. I think every cartoonist does that now. Have I got anything else?
Yes.
Oh yeah, my favorite. I was delighted when a lion ate a poacher earlier this year. I just thought that was great because I've been to Africa and these people are terrible what they're doing. And often for the name of the Chinese, sort of getting herbs and that sort of thing. So when he ate this poacher, I imagine him in his living room, which of course is the great savannah there, having his trophy up on his wall of the poacher. So I'm a big animal rights guy. I think animals have the right idea. Anyway, I won't get on going on, but anyway, that's why I was very pleased with that drawing. And that's an actual drawing. It's not a Photoshop. Yeah. Next.
Yeah, I think this one actually belongs to the elections.
Oh,
It's kind of a crossover basically, but these people are just do you want to hide behind the blue or the red umbrella? So yeah, this is kind of the doomsday clock, and he's sort of stuck between it, and it's gonna work out eventually, I guess. I'm not really optimistic. Yeah, well, it's just like the last sunsets of the holiday or something. Yeah, just more like a mood piece. Not so much to say about it, I guess. And this is kind of the archetypical Norwegian skier. Yeah, and he's up in the mountains on his roller skis because, of course, it doesn't snow anymore. And it's like a poetic little moment where he sees the last snowflake fall. It's like celebrating Christmas. So it's like I don't know if you can see it there, but there's a tree looking out and seeing like the massacre outside of the window. So it's and it's kind of in this I kind of imagine that to be the last thing we do is like just pecking our devices and check for Wi-Fi signal while we die. I think,
Nice crossover to Terry's.
And that was a piece about like the different generations' relationship to cars and to this old guy with a hat just driving off a cliff while the kids in the back are just blinded by the fumes, so they don't really. I don't know. It's heading one way anyways, and there's nobody to stop it. Worst case scenario, it could work out well, maybe someday.
Like the one on the clock.
Yeah, like the one on the clock. Yeah. If we just wait and see, it'll I'll just show.
Christian, can I just ask you? You mentioned earlier that the big spaces in your images are sometimes are they just because that's how you compose, or are there other reasons?
The reason is all my drawings are like these big colorful ones. They're printed on as a double page spreads. So the text is always on top of the drawing. So I have to sort of make the composition fit the text, and that's kind of been a blessing in disguise, because it's sort of forced me to work against all that negative space and sort of try to incorporate it into a drawing. And I found that it's actually kind of a powerful tool for making atmosphere and and since these images are printed so large, you can sort of put a lot of details into small spaces and sort of make that work against the big space surrounding it. And it's kind of become a trademark, but it just began because I had to adapt to the way they wanted the text placed on top of the images. So
Could I add something here on this?
Yeah.
Because it's very clever in a way you may not realize this. When I started in the business over 50 years ago, readers spent an average of 8 or 9 seconds looking at a cartoon. And that's why there would be a lot of details and people, the tie. Now they spend 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Because of devices, you lose them very quickly, 3 seconds. So something like that is understood immediately. You don't have a label here or a bear looking up quizzically. It's boom, it hits you. So it's very, very effective.
Well, thank you. I feel like, well, I'm kind of happy with this, because this is kind of
what you were doing. Right?
Well, I sort of try to make a simple metaphor.
Simple, but at
like
the same time with beautiful little details. So if people take a second look, okay, like it's, the undergrowth coming out of the just gorgeous stuff.
Thank you.
Chapleau does the same thing. It's understandable immediately, but if you look closely at the guy's grin or something, it's, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sue.
Oh, this is one of those Arctic vortex times where this would be an Antarctic vortex. This, of course, is Al Gore.
People those crutches.
Oh, I thought they're all bunched up.
Yeah.
Really broad.
It makes me uncomfortable. By the way, Christian, when you showed my cartoon of the polar bear before, just by itself,
Yeah.
I said, you shouldn't be showing this, you should be showing Sue. This is just great.
You're right.
Thanks.
Crutch.
Okay, now this is actually my favorite cartoon. It's just stupid. You know how your parents always said, the Wilsons are here, or the wolves at the door. So.
Oh, Mr. Trump.
And that's an election.
Yeah, that's.
I mistakenly put it in the environment because I thought of the reference to winter and his denial. So that's what the reader does to your work, though.
Now this one actually was stolen. And it was so embarrassing because I had given this cartoon, I'd made a G-play and put it in a little fundraiser for the Humane Society. And and that when Don and I were making the G-play, there was a card rack, and that cartoon was sitting on a card rack.
For sale.
For sale, yeah. But it wasn't mine. It was somebody redrawn it.
Stole the
Yeah,
idea.
they sold the idea. It was
That's
identical.
never happened before.
Yeah. But on a card, because I thought, oh my God, people are going to think I lifted it instead of the reverse. Okay.
This is also a cover for the magazine I work for, so hence the space on the left. But so it's on the the no worries topic. We're going off to celebrate Christmas and shopping as usual, and are oblivious about it. Yeah. So not much more to be said. And the next one is more or less the same. It was that one of the topics for the magazine was for the edition was I don't know how you say it in English. Anthropocene. Yeah, actually the new era where our behavior actually defines our geological environment. So this is a barbecue, and obviously something's cooking. Well, this is actually not for the environment. This is the refugee crisis. So this is like the ignorance to other people's pain. Going about vacation as usual. Well, not probably self-explanatory. It was. I mean, we had some explaining to do. I think my daughter was like in the 4th grade when she came home from school, and she was kicking the door, and I said, "You never told me about global warming. What were you thinking?" And I said, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't, actually. And she was like 8 years old, and I should have probably brought it up earlier, but I didn't. It's just this horrendous guilt and the lack of perspective. How can we tell them? How can we? So look, Nemo. So actually, drawings on this topic needs to involve children, because we're almost, we can enjoy the last sort of. This summer was I don't know whether you had it here, but the summer in Oslo was really, really scary. I mean, the trees in the parks were like brown, and everything was dying.
That's not like normal.
It's not normal.
No, it's not normal. I mean, I could never. I think this is the worst we'd had.
Yeah.
And
It was the hottest since it like broke everywhere here.
Yes.
And we love warm summers, obviously, because we have the same climate as you have. And we started out, this is nice, and then it was, this is strange, and then it was downright scary. Went on for weeks and months.
Mr. Garnotte.
Well, some year ago, in Montreal, I've had a little problem of water, so we dumped the spoil water in the St. Lawrence, our shit in the water. So I brought this because the fish needs some water, fresh water. Oh, this one is a little bit complex to explain, but you see, in Paris, some people begins to understand what is the réchauffement climatique, the global warming. So small island will disappear. So people. Yes. Yes.
It's all money laundering.
And the last one said, transfer all my money in the Nepal bank. So it will be protect. Another global warming cartoon with the biggest iceberg going out. And this one, maybe, do you want to make your share for the planet? And it's a gift of the United Nations. and another one, another planet
Packaging, yeah, packaging.
under the plastic. Yes.
Champion.
Yes. Yes. The same idea. Again.
Is that the best before or?
Oh yes, before, but I didn't put the date because I'm not sure. I was not sure. Yes, very optimistic. Like my friend.
Oh yeah. The GMO, the genetically modified nonsense that's going. What do they call it? The neonicotinoids. Do you guys know? Anybody know about that? What's been befallen the bee population? They're just like these, imagine it from their perspective. They're just going out to enjoy a tasty bit of pollen. And, it's very sad.
I love the way you draw the little wheat eggs on everything.
Because they're sad. They're little and sad.
For our final theme, we asked you to talk to us about what we call local issues. The themes we've looked at so far are doubtless a big part of your relationships with your audiences at home and around the world, and is one of the ways in which we get to know you and invite you to visit and so on. But you're also working in your homes, in the cities, Oslo, Toronto, Montreal. How do you see your work in your city, in your province, your country? What are the themes that connect you to your own civic life? That's our final group of questions. And so, start with Ontario. This is a Montreal self-portrait.
We've all made a terrific living on these cones, these traffic cones. I was in Toronto last week and I didn't see a cone, correct? I couldn't believe it. Anyway, they do have them here. I'm sorry. Anyway, just the frustration of trying to get around Montreal, and it's been growing. This has been going on for a very long time. But these, some guy rents these for $1 a day to the city, and he's making a fortune. These cones. So they're everywhere, and it's very much of a local issue. But also, this is a Montreal cone. A Toronto cone is orange and black. In Georgia, they're short and squat. So this is a typical Montreal cone.
Yeah, ours are more pointed.
Yeah, yours are. Yeah, yours are. So.
That's more like cat in the hat.
Anyway, also just the fun of drawing that guy's face, and that's all of us. And the business of having enough time to sort of get that expression and moving the eyeball in a little bit. That's the thing about the computer. Once ordinarily I do a drawing and scan it into the computer and then color it there. But occasionally I'll look at something and say, I want to move that eyeball in. So you could just circle and grab it and move it in ever so much closer, and it makes him look that much more frustrated. So it's like this wonderful brush you have. Able to play with. What's next? What have you got next? Oh yeah, this you have to be in Montreal to understand this. That we have foods that we all love: poutine, smoked meat, bagels. We're famous for these. But this is what the Turcotte. Turcotte is a sort of a big expressway where it's like a spaghetti, with all of the overpasses and underpasses. This and the other. So I created this new Montreal food. What the Turcotte?
Terry, if I can just interrupt for a second. We were in the gift shop earlier on this evening, and our good friends from Norway here, they saw the T-shirts there for poutine. They couldn't understand what the significance was. Maybe you can illuminate them out. So why they would have French fries on a T-shirt here in Montreal?
Why would you put gravy on French fries?
What you have to do, actually, Montreal is one of the most interesting cities. It's not the richest city anymore. It's not even the most beautiful, but it's the most interesting city in Canada and perhaps North America, because we have these idiosyncrasies and a lot of things that go on here, and we love them. And we even embrace the cones. We live with this stuff. So how do you explain poutine? It's French fries with cheese and gravy, basically. But it's caught on. You get it in top restaurants now in New York. It's poutine. Everywhere you go now, they have poutine. We crossed the states. In San Francisco, we found poutine. We found smoked meat too, but we
You
found...
don't have to eat it.
No, you don't have to
Just
eat it.
know that it's poutine.
So, but anyway, that's why the importance of these local cartoons. You can draw Trump all you want, and I will draw Trump, and sure you get some reaction. But if I draw a cartoon, what have you got next, Christian?
Carey Price.
Yeah. Hockey is so important here in Montreal. Montrealers claim it was invented here. I'm not sure about that, but we have won more. The Montreal Canadiens, not recently, but it's sort of the equivalent of the New York Yankees in the United States. We've won more championships and so on. Also, hockey unites us. Doesn't matter if you're a separatist, a federalist, a newcomer, whatever it is, we all love hockey. It's the it's the religion now. And we've drawn cartoons, it's the religion of Montreal. So I wanted to point that out with this cartoon. This is the goalie, the current goalie, and everything hinges on this guy keeping the puck out of the net as the goaltender. So he stretched everything, his jockstrap included. He's sort of trying to block all the open spaces. What have you got next? Oh, okay. I love that. This is sort of, any Montrealer knows this as a typical scene. You've got a church, you've got the corner store, which we call a dep. So it's wonderful, it's a lot of fun to sketch these scenes and then come up with a concept for a cartoon. And Montrealers relate to it far more so than a cartoon of Donald Trump. So in this particular case, St. Henri, everybody knows the neighborhood down below the hill. It's sort of was a working class neighborhood. Well, it's getting pretty hip now. On a Sunday morning, and the guy goes into the dep and he buys himself a lottery ticket, and then he goes to church on Sunday morning and prays for winning numbers. So to sketch that on a winter day and so on, and then it's so much fun. I really enjoy this. I'd almost like to do this full time, draw Montreal scenes and come up with some situation. And I know other people enjoy it too, just the business of the Pepsi sign there and a one-way street and a guy going along in the cold, but he's only got a windbreaker on. We all do that. Stuff like that. Do I have anything else?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to say a word about Montreal. That's Chapleau with of course, a belt, of suicide belt of pencils. Myself with a pencil through my ear. Our good friend Garnotte here with the slingshot. This is Y who draws for the Journal de Montréal. Down here we have Eric Godin, and the guy who draws with me at the Gazette, right up here. His name is actually Jacques Goldstein, but he draws on the name of Boris. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cartoonists in Montreal drawing for the editorial pages of our newspapers. 7. New York doesn't have any. LA only has 1, and he's not very good. So I think I can safely say we still have some good cities, Halifax, Quebec City, Toronto, but that's about it in Canada in terms of a lot of good political activity. But Montreal has to be the best city in North America to be a cartoonist. Do you agree?
No arguments.
And also with 7 very different styles. You immediately know a Garnotte, you immediately know a Pascal, you know what they are because we all have different styles, opposed to, unlike the Americans who all draw in a similar style. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's mine as well. It's I guess mine aren't that specifically Oslo or Norwegian. It's more like the grab bag of different topics. This is just like us being divided, doing basically the same stuff, but making tribal divisions on arbitrary lines, basically, and still living under the same spectacular sky of stars while we argue over idiotic things. So yeah, these are the jerks and the idiots. Yeah, being drawn into that deep dark forest. Yeah, and of course in the fairy tales, like if you follow the lights into the forest, something bad is bound to happen sooner or later. So yeah, it's like with great enthusiasm being led into something. Yeah.
You have an idiot face.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if you can see this. This was just also an issue in Norway. Like this Somali girl who came to Norway as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, and 10 years later she was like denied her visa and was told to leave. And so she, and in that time she sort of lost all touch with her old country and everything. So she sort of let him go, and this kind of archetypical Norwegian idiot is like, he says, on the other hand. So he's just sort of just like changes his mind in mid jump. So yeah. Yeah, this was kind of about how the debate is getting more ad hominem, I guess, and you can sort of, you don't really have to hit the mark as long as you knock out your opponent. This one was about how how equal treatment doesn't necessarily mean equality. To treat everybody the same isn't necessarily a way to Yeah, it's. I think I got the same tiny sad arms as you. Yeah. So like the So the sad ball with the I mean the triangle could probably get through, and also the cylinder, but the ball is he's fucked. So yeah.
That's our new mayor, Valérie Plante, but she surprisingly won after the Nicodère was supposed to win. So he's down on the ground. He's not those guys came in Montreal with their huge puppets, walking in the streets. It's very impressive. And that's it. This is a drawing I did in I met the guy at the Salon du Livre this weekend. Yes, he still has the don't draw me again.
Can I tell the story, because you won't boast about it? This has to be boasted. Can I tell the story?
Sure. What? What story?
Gilles Duceppe was a very strong nationalistic politician who was elected in Ottawa with a political party, the Bloc Québécois, for a period of time. He did very well within Quebec, and they elected many members, so he became a strong voice for Quebec and Ottawa. The thing is that one election, he went into a factory, and politicians aren't supposed to make these mistakes, and he put on a cheese factory, and he put on one of the silly bonnets, the shower caps. And they got the photos of it. And as Chapleau says, Chapleau didn't put it on his head. The politician put it on his head.
And also the picture that was shown in the newspaper was much more funnier than that. I mean, the guy would look like an idiot. So that, and it's just saying it's come to me, don't forget tomorrow I'm visiting a condom factory.
Now I think on the French side this is the most brilliant cartoon that's been drawn in the last 50 years.
As a politician he's okay because we had a convention and he came to talk to us.
Years and years later, he was convinced that this cartoon destroyed him. And he denounced Chapleau privately, and everybody was shocked and so on for years. But then finally we had a convention right here of cartoonists, and somebody asked Duceppe to come, and he came.
But remember what we did.
Yeah,
well, this is it. I was leading up to that. When he came and he stood up at the podium, all the cartoonists in the room, 80 cartoonists, put on show. As a salute. He did too.
All right.
So, a great cartoon.
Oh.
It's a guy. Oh, okay, it's me.
This is your digital self.
Yeah, that's it. I have a show on TV, animation, every week, and I'm part of the show, so I'm in it. And I look ridiculous, exactly like that. No. Why are we looking at this?
This was Christian's choice.
Just when he died,
Nice homage.
yeah, that's it. I didn't want to put any colors, just a drawing like that.
Forearms from Joe.
Yeah, it's
Going to be long.
Gonna be long.
And another homage.
Yeah, that's Leonard Cohen. It's always fun to do. Once in a while, do a straight car, straight.
Las
Los
Tres
Tres
Amigos.
Amigos. You see, I'm having a problem with blood stain. It says no problem. We're going to work it with Photoshop. But that's a character in. Come on, he's no good. It's a very well-known cartoon character. Erdogan. Nothing to say about that.
This is when he went to Cuba and
Yeah.
was expecting to meet with Castro's brother.
The tie is like Trump style, isn't it? Long red tie.
Yeah, that's it. It's before Trump, and it's in his pants.
The clones again?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, never get far away from your barbecue in Montreal because you won't find it again.
Without the GPS.
Yeah, that's it. Well, our
The loonie.
Canadian dollar was going very badly, so the duck is outside. Test nucléaire souterrain, underground test. Quel soulagement, comment on dirait ça? Preparation H.
What a relief.
What a
Yeah,
relief.
what a relief.
Well, again, I still enjoyed drawing. So John Comeshi went around and screwed every thing that moved, and he went out and says, "Je m'excuse," but he did it very du bout des lèvres, just like. So it was just fun to show him with this. It's a crazy guy. Oof.
Great here. Just like him.
Well, that's it. Okay, Sue.
Sue?
Oh,
Greyhound.
the Greyhound Bus Company, which is the only way to get around some parts of Canada, pulled out of the West. So they now can't get anywhere. They can't get to schools. They can't get downtown. They can't. There's no bus service. Well, that's what that is, and that's the Greyhound. And of course, you know, now you can smoke marijuana, but you can't smoke anywhere, so. This is a very old cartoon. This is when they allowed topless. And then this is supposed to be for global warming.
Oh, sort of.
Oh,
Yeah.
Actually, with another one. And that's,
Yes, personal cartoon. In Montreal, we have a lot of corruption. So at the Santa Claus, the kid asked, "It will help me to get a biggest construction game." No, construction. Yes, and Lego.
With a brown envelope.
Yes, with a brown envelope and some money inside. For the same corruption, tour of the ville. So it's everybody can take photo of yes, the restaurant where the big shots were meeting, and we will go to the city hall, and with some luck, a little bit of luck, maybe someone will be arrested or something like that. You see. Still in Montreal with the cone again. The mayor, the Nicodère, welcomed the Syrian migrants, refugees, and the little kid, hey, look, Dad, it's a bomb creator.
Just like it's
Just like in Syria. No, here we call that a nid de poule. Typical of Montreal. And there were another problem in Montreal, the pit bull syndrome and caricaturist syndrome too. We were all Charlie, he is pit bull. And for the me too, me too. Little Riding.
The Little Red Riding.
Yes, there are many of them.
Oh yeah. This wasn't a very nice cartoon. There was this hashtag My Safety Selfie that was a program a couple years ago that was implemented in Toronto by a lot of very bright ladies, and I thought it was a little bit ahead of the curve in light of how things have unfolded in the last couple of years with the Me Too movement, but it really illustrated an important aspect of safety for women across the country who would go on public transit and be harassed, and it's something that most of us as men rarely ever have to put up with, but I don't think there's a woman out there anywhere, including here tonight, that hasn't been exposed to some really, really bad behavior by men. These are kind of local things. I don't know if it played out much in Quebec, but in the rest of Canada, CBC famously got the boot from Hockey Night coverage, and Rogers took over for the vast majority and humiliated all the CBC people, so they were driven from the village by the stupid people who were like, what are we giving you our tax dollars for? But I felt bad for the CBC. Oh, and we had just a local thing, the fictional CBC program with Pauline, if she could track down all the people that were wearing religious headgear in her scary mobile when she get the red alerts.
Pollinator.
Yes, the Pollinator. This next one, this is not a local cartoon at all, it's an international cartoon, but I think it's the last time there was a big conflict with the war between Israel and Gaza, and the lizards are talking to each other year after year, nothing changes. And I know it's just sickening, and I find your spots sickening. And it's tough times. And these are local. I'm sure most of the folks here know that we had a complete donkey as our mayor in Toronto, this guy Rob Ford, for a couple of years, and with his goon brother supporting him as he had his big musical thing with this crack pipe on stage, a big Broadway thing. I thought it would be kind of funny. And he kept saying our record speaks for itself, which somehow the voters in Ontario believed, and they've now elected this guy as our premier, which is really, really hard to imagine. But prior to that happening, it looked like Rob Ford was going to continue being the boss, the gangland boss of Toronto for a very, very long time, but then he died. So, it was, and then the next one when he was talking about voting or running again for, I thought it was kind of funny to make it seem like a horror thing from like the 1920s expressionist German movie poster with horrifying the locals, and he's a very scary guy, and not for any good reason. But he and his brother, while they were in power, they were like the guys from West Side Story, just, you know, in their little gang, like we're the Jets or the Sharks, and they're just, you know, pulverizing everybody at city council. They were bad characters. And I think this might be the last one. This is when before his downfall, he went into to rehab, and even the people who were supporting him were getting a bit fed up by the whole experience, because they said, "Don't worry, he'll be back in 30 days," and it was just too much for most of Toronto to take. And then he died. So.
Well, this is a topic that's sort of the newspaper I work for. There are lots of young women who starts to be active in the political debate. Many of them come from different backgrounds. They have different ethnic origin, and they're actually becoming very important voices. But they met this massive harassment, not only in social media and whenever they sort of take place or raise their voice, but they also are in a difficult position, because many of them come from backgrounds where religion is religious communities, and one of them did this commentary on the sort of the double standards that the same people that are harassing you is also shaming you for being harassed or being sort of extrovert, or so they are in a quite a vulnerable position, and many of them are really, really brave, and they actually they call it the Shameless Girls, which is actually an association of young female commentators who's actually trying to break through, and they really meet so much
resistance.
Yeah, resistance. Yeah, sort of. They're really in a very so it's really squeezed, and they're still at it, and I think that is very important voices. This was actually for the climate department, but we've had this discussion about lowering the age for voting, so that this is she's saying voting rights for 16-year-olds. Yeah, right. Like they've got zero sense of consequence. I mean, really. And obviously these are people, women my age. I find it very satisfying to draw women my age, because it's sort of they have this contrasts and being sort of vulnerable, because they're sort of over their prime, and they're grasping really hard for everything that could keep them sort of on top of things. It's nice. I like to draw that. This was actually for a Nytt magazine, and the thing was, it was actually a book review on a book on how we sort of meet change and how we adapt to change, and our willingness to meet change. And I thought maybe, okay, so if there was a bus with utopia on it, would you really enter, or would you be kind of hesitant? Also, this is more of a political. I mean, I meet a lot of people who said, "Why do you do political stuff?" I mean, I'm not interested in politics. Politics are boring, and I find it so strange, because to me, politics is everything, and politics is just how we organize human lives. So, but a lot of people take their pride in not being informed, and just. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. But as you can see, it's not really blissful. It's kind of painful in the end. This was for the climate also. We have had this conflict in Oslo, because we have, at the moment, we have a leftish green city city council, and they actually done a lot for cyclists, and there's been this really tough conflict, because a lot of car owners felt threatened, and
This is the Toronto experience.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to harassment, the female leader of the Green Party has had. It's hard to believe she's receiving so much hateful and really wild stuff. She actually announced that she was going to have her first child now, and the first comment she got was, "Oh no, she's actually breathing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a combination of she's of a half Vietnamese descent as well, so it's kind of, and she's a young.
And she's pretty, which is
so it's
also
kind of like a racist. Well, yeah,
sexist, racist, political, yeah.
Political,
so,
yeah, so it's a lot of ugly stuff getting thrown at her. So,
yeah. So this is very, yeah. This is like the aftermath after Me Too. So, and I think this is like a sports journalist's way. And so, how do you feel now? And obviously, it doesn't feel too good about it. I like the drawings that I do that have some sort of ambiguity to it. I sort of like the most, because this is just not okay. He's behaved like a, but he also is kind of ashamed. So it's yeah. And also of course the microphone ended up like the previous one. The microphone ended up like sort of visual. Okay. This is also to the things that I talked about earlier. How young women really, when you utter something about, I mean, anything, you receive these threats and everything. And I have a daughter who's 21, and it's hard to believe. I mean, she was threatened to her life before she was 19, because she uttered something about nothing, really. And this is the story that they really get so much. So how can we? These are the voices we really need. So how can we give them space when the climate is like this?
Well, you know, it's all, there is this expression that, and I don't know where, it probably came from a poet, that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. But I think we might be able to say that cartoonists are the unacknowledged conscience of all of us. You've been very, very generous tonight. You've taken much more of your time than we said we would. And so we had thought we would have questions, but I think it might be best if we just have a sort of informal time after we close. And if I may, what I'd like to do is bring us to a close by saying thank you again to Christian Vachon and the McCord Museum for hosting us. Thank you so much. To Daniel Chartier and his research chair on the Imaginaire of the North, of Winter, of the Arctic, and to the Council of Nordic Ministers. Merci beaucoup for votre soutien. To the Faculty of Arts of UQAM and to the Centre de Recherche Interuniversitaire sur la littérature et la culture québécoise for also supporting this event. I thank them very much. We have a little something for you. I gave Terry his already. To say thank you for traveling and being with us. It's part of our history. This is part of our history.
It's from.
We hope we have the chance to write some more history together with our students and our colleagues and with all of you in the next months, years, and then we'll get to meet again here, maybe in Oslo, maybe in Toronto.
There we go.